Hi, everybody. This is Drew Tomlin with the Association for Middle Level Education, and I'm so glad that you could join us today for this hangout with Amber Chandler, who's written a wonderful article called "It's a Selfie Thing: The Role of Artifacts in Teacher Evaluation." Amber is an English language arts teacher at Frontier Middle School in Hamburg, New York, and we're so happy that Amber could be with us today. So thanks so much, Amber.
Thank you. It's exciting.
All right. So what inspired you to write this article? Why now?
Well, I think that right now with APPR as it is and sort of the questions that are up in the air right now about what direction it's going to go, now more than ever we need to be self-promoting. And I don't think teachers necessarily want to do that. I don't think we like to do that. And sometimes that's why I use the selfie title, because it is drawing attention to yourself, but it's also drawing attention to what you do well in your classroom.
All right, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the word promotion and promoting, and you mentioned that science teachers should promote themselves as scientists, English teachers as writers and speakers. So why is it so important that young adolescents and their families, in fact, why is it so important that they see teachers in those other roles? How does it support students as they learn?
I think it's really important to show students that what they're doing has meaning in a larger situation. And for a lot of years, I didn't talk about my writing with students very much. And I talked about writing, but not my writing. And then once I switched and started talking about my writing, and that moment I showed them, an editor's copy with different mistakes I had made and how I had to go back and fix it. It was great to show them that I'm just like them. I'm their lead learner. And that's kind of we're in this together, and that my writing needs work and doesn't come out perfect. I think they were under the impression that as an English teacher, I would never have a grammar mistake or something like that. So I think it helps them.
Excellent. So clearly from the books behind you, reading is important as well. So, but yes, yeah, writing is important. So what kind of writing do you do if you had to categorize it?
I do mostly education writing, and occasionally I get into parenting. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. So occasionally I take that leap into parenting. I'm much more comfortable talking about my students in my classroom.
Got it. Yeah, and when you have time to write, goodness gracious, with students and your own kids all together, that's hard to get that process into the timeline, isn't it?
It was interesting because it was almost like just an itch that needs scratched, because I didn't write for a lot of years. The first probably 10 years that I was teaching, I would do other things that, I teach college classes, but I really felt like sharing what was happening in the classroom. And once I started writing about educational issues, it really opened up. It's interesting how many people want to talk about it.
Exciting. And in your article too, you mentioned specific domains that kind of reflect on that, reflect on the evaluation and method process. Specifically, you discussed the importance of planning, environment, assessment, and reflection as key domains for a new evaluation method or process. So I know it's hard to boil it down to just one, but of those, is there one that stands out to you as that has a special importance or significance?
I think reflection is so important, and it's interesting. A few years ago, at the bottom of my lesson plans, I started writing just a reflection box. And it's so many times as a teacher, you have a lesson and you realize that was 2 minutes longer than it should have been, or I lost them at this moment, that word's too hard. But life goes on, teachers are really busy, so that reflection, even if it's a second, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, then being able to next year not make the same mistakes and be able to adjust for what works better for students.
Wow, and that really does capture the whole selfie mentality in a way. It's like, taking that picture of yourself and then reflecting on it and seeing what it really shows about you. That's really cool.
Sometimes they don't turn out well. Sometimes that's how it happens. Sometimes you see the reality, but
there you go.
I think it is really a nice thing to do.
Yeah, and it's so easy to just, if you have a picture that's a little off-putting of yourself, it's so easy to hit delete or left swipe or whatever you want to call it. But it's, like you said, it's more important to reflect on that image and what it really means. So, all right, so we talked about, what teachers can do and in their classrooms to make this kind of happen. So what can middle-level administrators and leaders do to encourage and even celebrate this celebratory and promotional and transparent documentation of teaching? What can they do?
I think one of the things to do is almost to look at, as an administrator, look at all of the teachers that are underneath you, that are, that you're in charge of, as you're their mentor. And I've mentored teachers before, and one of the things that you do is you promote them. You make sure that everyone knows they did this great thing, and because you're trying to promote them. And I think if principals and assistant principals, if you see something in someone's classroom that really works, and actually a really nice thing did happen to me. I had an assistant principal ask me, can I share something that you did in your observation? And I thought that was so cool, and it had never happened to me before. And I would love to hear what is working in other people's classrooms.
That's really nice. Yeah, because if teachers don't have the time to go into each other's classrooms, then administrators should make that transparent and give them that opportunity to at least capture or share what's really great going on. That's great. So Amber, we're gonna, as an English language arts teacher yourself, you know the power of metaphors. So we're gonna take you down a metaphorical journey, if you don't mind, and ask you a food question. So are you ready for it?
I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be.
All right, here we go. If artifacts in teacher evaluation were a food for middle level education, what kind of food would they be and why?
Wow. I think maybe a secret family recipe might be a way to think of it.
Cool.
Like your, Sunday sauce or something that you make that it's yours and you don't mind that people want to know about it. Because artifacts, in a sense, are that thing that you're proud of, and making sure that it's understood if someone doesn't notice it. So if I were to go with the food thought, I would say some secret family recipe, something that's particularly yours, that stands out. I mean, if I think about artifacts, I wouldn't want to hand an administrator, the same old task that, it doesn't really show anything. Right. Whereas if I send them like my secret sauce, my special thing that I do, I think that might be a telling indicator for them to help them with an evaluation.
That's really, you hit it out of the park, Amber. I gotta tell you what, that's really super cool. And
thank you. It was a little, that's a little tough question there.
You handled it wonderfully. And that actually 3 words that you used really, I think resonated with me. First of all, I don't know if you intended, but family. To me, I mean, that's what a learning community really is. And people have to be open to sharing if the family is going to improve. And of course, some families always have periods of dysfunction, but even a small family. But when you share what is unique about that family, then you grow. And then, of course, like I said, sharing and showing. So, and doing all of those things, I think, really can improve. And Michael Fullen, the educational researcher, talks about deprivatizing education, and you're right, by sharing that secret family recipe, that's kind of what you're doing.
Well, I think people a lot of times don't necessarily want to share that, what's the secret to your success, or why does this work for you? I think sometimes people feel like that, but every educator is going to have their own stamp. I can hand 5 different people a lesson plan, and there'd be 5 different lessons that came from it. People are going to put their own personality into it.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah. And whether you're a veteran teacher or a new teacher or a new administrator, even, you have things that you can share with others to improve the craft, so excellent. Wow. I'll tell you what. Well, gosh, Amber, thank you so much for this conversation, this follow-up to your article. It's a selfie thing, the role of artifacts in teacher evaluation. A great article in AMLE magazine, and a great conversation. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So thank you, AMLE magazine readers, for checking out this hangout with Amber Chandler and I here at AMLE, where we help you reach every student, grow professionally, and create great schools. All right. Bye. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you. That was awesome. That wasn't too scary.
No, not at all. You did great.